Abushimmega Bidialas Yetichas Knas, wor Amerigam Yatsam Nahatnira, Haigagani, Bari Luys. Bari Luys. Since it's Thursday night, that means that we're going to have this program in English. And as you can see, I'm not in my regular seat, therefore that means I'm interviewing someone. But before I go to the interview, I was just informed today that the 100th anniversary Centennial Committee of the Western USA, which we, Los Angeles Armenians are, have announced their 100th anniversary commemoration events for the Armenian genocide. You guys remember 2 years ago what I said? It's going to be a bigger demonstration, a bigger hockey hankies, actually two of them. And then suddenly we're going to unveil a landmark in Los Angeles. And we are content that we commemorated the 100th anniversary. Let me tell you with all honesty and all prideness that I have done more by what I'm doing for the Armenians than that the Centennial Committee. So on Monday, I'm going to reflect in detail on those things, and then we can talk. But right now, as you can see, I am in an interview set, and my guest is Mr. Vahan Setyan. Good morning. Bari Luys. Actually, good light. Vahan, I know that you will be publishing your latest book, Language as a Fingerprint, this July. And you are here right now. I invited you so that you can tell us about the content of that book. And I think coming in this time, in the 21st century, talking about some almost 2,000-year-old information or 4,000-year-old information is a crucial for Armenians to understand where they come from. First, tell me why you named the book Language as a Fingerprint.
Well, actually, I took a lot of time trying to figure out what to name the book, because if you consider at least the 12,000 years of Armenian history, it becomes a difficult task for you to find the right appropriate term, because you have to really protect that the title itself, because you're going to have so many questions coming in and criticisms at the same time. And the reason why I chose language as a fingerprint, because I think that language works better than a DNA information. In other words, the Armenian language itself contains immense amount of information, prehistoric information. It contains all their ventures and travels around the world, and we even see their language, Armenian language, immersed in other languages throughout the world. And because of that, we're able to extract relevant information from those languages and reveal what they have done, how do they perceive their environment, and how they have used the Armenian language through their cultural tangents. So basically, the Armenian language itself is like an examining tool for other civilizations.
Well, in society, they always say big fish eat small fish. So now, if the Armenian language and its words are immersed in other languages, so that means that the Armenian language predates all those other languages, the Latin, the Greek, the Farsi, and such on?
Of course. I mean, this is...
So basically, you're talking about those and their proofs in this book?
Well, absolutely. I have at least 200 references, academic references, interviews, at least the last 125 years of research. And at the same time, I do extract information from various scholars from different parts of the world. It's not only Armenian, even though one of the best books we have is in the Armenian language in Armenia. But I was able to extract as much as I can. And through 120 years of research in the Armenian language and the Indo-European language overall, through different language trees and genetic evidences, anthropological evidences, and so forth, I'm able to provide substantial evidence that the Armenian language is not only ancient, more ancient than the others,
Well-
from Indian and others.
Okay. Well, we as a nation, we know about the Armenian language starting from 452 or 403, one of those years, either 403 or 452. Now, what you're telling me that if the Armenian language dates back 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years, and those words existed in other languages, and it predates all other languages, then the myth of Mesrop Mashtots inventing the Armenian alphabet or the Armenian language, how can you define what Mesrop Mashtots has done to the Armenian language? Were we speaking Armenian before Mesrop Mashtots, or it's basically the church copycat, all those, the alphabet coming from a few thousand years ago?
Well, the traditional standpoint of Mesrop Mashtots is really skewed, and not a lot of information we can extract to get relevant data of what has happened. Now, of course, the Armenian language was being spoken before that time. I mean, if you have different scientists trying to take Armenian language back 6,000 or 7,000 years, they don't rely on written scripture or written material. Otherwise, we don't have anything, after, before 301. We don't have anything after before 800 AD either. So
because traditionally we were taught that the Armenian language was created to worship the God that they are worshiping right now as Christians.
Right.
But apparently the Armenian alphabet was there before, and just the myth of Christianity and how it destroyed the Armenian culture is just getting proven. We will come back and talk about this thing as soon as we present to you some of the commercials that are supporting this program. Stay tuned and we'll be back.
Have you protected him? Have you protected her? Look safe. Don't leave him hanging. Have you put real thought in his future? Have you protected your kid's future? Let's create a trust. Assign them a guardian to protect his future. Contact Der Parsegian Law Group. We are here to help.
Էնսինոյում գտնվող Terrace Restaurant and Lounge-ը միջին արևելյան ճաշարանների բազմությունից առանձնանում է լավագույն լիբանանյան խոհանոցով։ Ճաշարանի շքեղ բացօթյա սրահը անկրկնելի է բուրավետ հուկա վայելելու եւ միջին արևելյան ախորժալի խորտիկները ճաշակելու համար։ Ուրբաթ եւ շաբաթ կենթանի նվագախումբը, DJ-ն ու գեղեցկուհի պարուհիները ձեր ժամանցը կհամեմեն միջերկրական կրքոտ ռիթմերով։ Ճաշարանը բաց է շաբաթը 6 օր, ճաշին եւ ընթրիքին։ Անմահական ուտեստներ, անկրկնելի միջավայր։ Terrace Restaurant and Lounge։ 25 տարի համայնքի հետ, համայնքի համար։ 25 տարի շարունակ Հորիզոն հեռուստատեսությունը արձագանքել է ժամանակի պահանջներին ու բավարարել ամենատարբեր նախընտրությունների հեռուստադիտողին։ Հորիզոնը մշտապես ներկայացրել է հայ համայնքի քաղաքական, մշակութային, հասարակական ներուժը, բարձրաձայնելով հայի կարծիքն ու դիրքորոշումը։ Հավատարիմ իր առաքելությանը Հորիզոնը Հարավային Կալիֆոռնիայի հայ համայնքին առաջարկում է անվճար կապուղիների միջոցով լինել հայոց աշխարհի իրադարձությունների կիզակետում։ Արդիականացման աշխատանքներից հետո Հորիզոնն այսօր արդեն եթերում է 10.6 հաճախականությամբ։ Մեզ միանալու համար անհրաժեշտ է ընդամենը մեկ ամենասովորական ալեհավաք։ Հաջորդ քայլով միացնում եք ալեհավաքը հեռուստացույցի համապատասխան մուտքին։ Հեռակառավարման վահանակի վրա սեղմում եք որոնող կոճակը եւ 10.6 ալիքի միջոցով հայտնվում եք գիտակրթական, տեղեկատվական, հանրամատչելի, ժամանցային ու որն ամենակարևորն է, տեղական բազմազան հեռուստահաղորդումների հորձանուտում։ Հորիզոն հեռուստատեսությանն անվճար միանալու համար անհրաժեշտ է ընդամենը մեկ հպում։ Տեխնիկական հարցերի համար կարող եք դիմել 818 403 95 հեռախոսահամարով եւ մենք կօգնենք ձեզ դառնալու մեր հեռուստադիտողը։ Պահպանեք լավագույն ավանդույթները։ Միացեք Հորիզոնին։ Central Optometry կենտրոնն ու Board Certified ակնաբուժ Սոնա Սիրունյանը առաջարկում են ակնաբուժական ծառայությունների լայն ցանկ, այդ թվում աչքի ընդհանուր քննություն, ակնային հիվանդությունների ախտորոշում եւ բուժում։ Աչքերի չորության բուժման համար այստեղ կիրառվում է շրջանում միակը հանդիսացող Lipi Flow բարձրորակ սարքավորում, մանկական ակնաբուժական ծառայություններ եւ այլն։ Central Optometry-ն առաջարկում է նաեւ contact լենզերի եւ հայտնի պիտակների օպտիկական ակնոցների լայն ընտրանի։ Central Optometry Կյանքին նայեք առողջ եւ գեղեցիկ աչքերով։
Հոմենետմենի 39-րդ նավասարդյա մարզախաղեր եւ հարադոն դեղի բիդունենա հուլիս 2-5 Birmingham High School-ի շրջափակեն ներս։ Բադմո նախագահությամբ Տերևդիկին Բեդիկ Էմերի Ֆերմանյաններուն։ Հարադոնը պիտի ջոխացնեն քաղաքից սիրված արվեստագետներեն Հարութ Փամբուկչյան, Դիքան Ասադարյան, Ժոզեֆ Գրիգորյան, Քրիստոֆոր Արաբյան համասկայնի Սայեդնովա երգչախումբը, Հոյլարի, Մաքսիմ, Էլի Բերբերյան, Արա Դաբանջյան Տրիո, Արշա Մուշացանք բանդ, Հարաճ Բողարյան, Գագիկ Բադալյան, Հարութ Հակոբյան եւ ուրիշ սիրված երգիչներ։ Եկեք հավաքաբար վայելելու նշանակալից այս փառատոնը։
Bari Luys. My guest is Dr. Vahan Setyan, and we're talking about his upcoming book called Language as a Fingerprint. As we know, or as we were educated, that in 403, Mesrop Mashtot invented the Armenian alphabet, yet the proofs are right now that the Armenian alphabet was around almost 500 BC in Bolivia. And it's so interesting that what is the coincidence of having that alphabet, especially the E and other Sh and all those letters, in existence so far away from the homeland of the Armenian alphabet. Dr. Setyan, could you give me some examples of how the Armenian language exists in other languages? I know that the English, the Latin, the Persian, they are similarity of words, and which one dates which, before or after?
Well, we have to consider various scientific disciplines to figure that out. It's not only just written material, but if we take everything into consideration, you can see that the Armenian language predates Latin, Greek, and Germanic, and Irish, and so forth. That's pretty clear. Now, the thing is, one scientist has said that the Armenian language comes after Hittite. Others have said the Armenian language comes before Hittite. So, but within the Hittite language, you can see Armenian words and vice versa. You can see words in Tocharian and so forth. So from that standpoint, we're really talking about prehistory now. We are not dealing with Persian or Latin and Greek anymore. But when you look at the languages outside of Armenia, outside the Armenian highland, you can go to Polynesia and Indonesia and South America, North America, Basque and India, you can see the Armenian not only just the sound of terms being the same, but they mean the same thing. Now,
for example? Yeah,
for example, let's say if in Spanish, for instance, for an owl, they say bujo, we say bu. For little, they say poco, we say poker. It's not a coincidence. I mean, if we're comparing apples with oranges, I would say yes, it's a coincidence. But if you have 400, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, where does it stop? Where you have to change your mind from being a coincidence to an actual, being there, this number of coincidence. Now, and also if you take all the evidences into consideration, you really have to come out of that coincidental mindset. All those people that say it's a coincidence, haven't really read all the works that it's out there. You have Leila Stepanian, for instance. You have Vahan Sargsyan, late Vahan Sargsyan. He found hundreds and hundreds of words between Armenian and Basque. And the thing is, the Basque Historical Society published all his books. In other words, there's something there for the Spanish and for the Basque. So in other words, they're promoting all his work. And we have Armenians who discount all that. So we're not dealing with evidence anymore, or the lack of it. We're dealing with inferiority complexes. We're dealing with anger and hate and denial and neglect.
It's more personal vendettas.
It is personal and societal issues. We're not dealing with evidence. The evidence is all there. We're having a hard time breaking that inferiority complex barrier.
Is it possible that once they break that inferiority complex, whoever they are, they will be known as knowing nothing, and then this new information will step on whatever they have introduced to us all these years, that this is the right thing?
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to have cognitive dissonance and so forth, but if you're intellectually honest, you have to accept the evidence. It's already there. I mean, I provide all these different evidences I even provide a logical argument. I haven't seen anyone do that at all. I do a logical argument and prove that Armenians are inhabitants of the Armenian highland for a very long time. They were not newcomers at all.
Yeah.
So based on those logical arguments and conclusions, it becomes irrefutable after that. We have all the evidence, and that's what I'm trying to say in my book, that it's no longer a matter of evidence, it's a matter of you being intellectually honest and starting to ponder what you have lost for thousands of years. Bringing a new dimension where it has been invisible for a very long time.
Well, in one of the lectures that you were giving a lecture, and I was there, this lady came up and said, for years they have taught us that Haig and Pel are the prehistory of the Armenian nation, and Haig being the descendant of Noah.
Yeah.
And then he fought with Pel and left the country and then went up into the mountains,
Right.
meaning left Mesopotamia and left to the Armenian land. So we are taught from the younger age that we came to those lands from outside, and
Right.
yet here is a biblical reference to that,
Yeah.
where it is just another lie
Right.
towards what Armenians have been and such on.
Sure.
Your book goes back to almost 12,000 years. What are the evidence of the 12,000 years?
Well, it's more than that. So, I mean, you have petroglyphs, you have hieroglyphs, you have artifacts, you have the language, you have the area that has been canvassed and examined for a very long time. Even new evidence has come about every year. You have the oldest temple in ancient Armenia and so forth. All that is convergent evidence. You have to realize that even in other scientific disciplines, there is a convergence of evidence, and everything comes together into one. Once you have that, that's what it is. H2O is H2O. It doesn't matter how you feel about water, whether you hate water and so forth. It doesn't matter. It's 2 part hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. Same thing with all the evidences. When you find concrete evidence, it doesn't matter how you feel about it.
It's so interesting that Armenians believe in Christianity. I mean, a certain portion of Armenians believe in Christianity,
Right.
and they believe that we are the descendants of Noah's Ark, Noah and his 7 or 8
3
sons and their wives, and then the biggest orgy on the planet. But ironically, we claim the oldest shoe to be in Armenia,
Right.
the oldest leather shoe, and the oldest wine factory, which predates Noah by at least 2,000 years. And it's so funny. Ladies and gentlemen, as soon as we present you more commercials, we'll come back and we'll talk about this fact. Bari Luys.
Սննդարար, համեղ եւ հաճելի։ Ներկայացնում ենք դամավանդ անարատ թարմ մածունը։ Այն ունի բնական թթվաշ համ եւ հագեցած է ակտիվ պրոբիոտիկներով։ Դամավանդ սարի բուրմունքն ու թարմությունը կրող այս մածունը անփոխարինելի է նաեւ խոհարարության մեջ։ Օգտագործեք այն կերակուր պատրաստելիս։ Իդեպ եփելիս այն երբեք չի կտրվում։ Դամավանդ, համեղ, թթվաշ։ Իսկական մածուն։ Վաճառվում է բոլոր նպատակներում։
Բովարդիա բանկետ հալ, շքեղ վերակառուցված խնջույքների սրա 250 հոգու համար, ընդարձակ պարհրապարակ, գուննեղ լուսավորում, համեղ ճաշեր, ընտիր խմիչքներ և ժամանցի սենյակ երեխաների համար, գրանցեք ձեր հաջորդ առիթը այս սրահում։ Բովարդիա
LABK Services հաստատությունը առաջարկում է սննկացման, bankruptcy-ի հայտարարագրման ծառայություններ, դիմումների ամբողջական լրացում 1 ցածր արժեքով, $399 գումարած արձանագրության պետական վճարումը, bankruptcy-ի դիմելու դյուրին ընթացք, ժամանակի ու դրամի խնայողություն։ Մենք երաշխավորում ենք սննկացման գործընթացի գաղտնապահությունը, bankruptcy-ի հետ կապված բոլոր հարցերով դիմեք LABK Services գրասենյակ։
Հոմենետմենի Նավասարդյան 39-րդ մարզախաղեր և փառատոն։ Դեղի պիտի ունենա հուլիսի 2-5 Birmingham High School-ի մեջ։ Մասնակցությամբ Հոմենետմենի 300 մարզական խումբերու, 3200 մարզիկներու և 1100 սկաուտներու։ Փառատոնը պիտի ջոխացնեն քաղաքի սիրված երգիչները։ Միացեք մեզի վայելելու ընտանեկան մդերմիկ մթնոլորտ և համդեսելու ավանդական համաթամ ջաշեր։ Ձեր մասնակցությամբ կաչալերեցեք Հոմենետմենի լայնածավալ գործունեությունը։
Bari Luys, and if we believe in the Bible, we're going to believe that we existed after Noah's descent to Mount Ararat, and his 3 sons and their wives created billions of people on the planet. I'm sure that was an incense. But then we claim to have the oldest leather shoe was founded in Armenia some 6,500 years ago. We claim to have the oldest wine-making factory in Armenia, some almost 7,000 years ago. So here's my question to you, Dr. Setyan. Which one should we believe? Do we have to believe that we are descendants of Noah, and then not claim the oldest shoe, the oldest factory, and such on, or the oldest temples on the planet, or just forget about this Noah story and then go to the essence, do more research, and find out and come up with the truth?
Well, there are two ways you can look at this. If you're going to believe the Noah story, it has to be a metaphor. It can't really be a literal translation of it. If you take it metaphorically, they would say, well, actually, it's the more history that goes back further in time and so forth. It's irreconcilable with the data and evidences and scientific evidences. There is no way. If you take it literally, then we have a very big problem. And it's even more irreconcilable. I mean, you have petroglyphs that date to 18,000 years. You found the oldest skeleton in Ethiopia that's 2.5 million years. So it's irreconcilable, whatever they're claiming. But the use of the Old and the New Testament is problematic when it comes to origins of man and animals and so forth, because it just doesn't coincide with anything else. Now, if we were going to consider ourselves to be the descendants of Japheth, for instance, then we are basically saying to ourselves that only 8 people created, the entire human race, and then.
Well, we believe that only 2 people created the whole race,
right?
Adam and Eve.
Exactly. So we are dealing with a problem where either we take one side or the other. We can't take both. And even historians, for instance, in Armenia, when it comes to that point, they really don't know what to say. They talk about creation and then talk about evolution and then back and forth. So it becomes very problematic for us to use the Old Testament, for us to decipher all this. We don't need to anymore. It's just a superstition. We have all the data that we need. We don't need to go back and forth what it says in there.
Okay. Well, the book Language as a Fingerprint will be published in July, and you'll be able to find it to the Armenian bookstores and on the internet through thearmenian.com, the same site that you guys go and buy my book. So here is almost 225-page a document where it has lots of proofs about how ancient this race is. Could you give other examples from the book so that the audience could be more excited about what they will find in this book as proofs that it hasn't been published in any other locations, or it has been published but nobody has paid attention to it?
Sure. Well, first of all, the logical argument hasn't been published anywhere at all. I'm the first one. And that should refute all the falsifiers of history out there that talk about that we were newcomers to the lands, whether foreign or Armenian historians. They will refute that within one paragraph. That's not a problem. And I also introduce and thank a lot of historians out there who have contributed to the Armenological studies. I also give a lot of examples from Polynesia, for instance. Like Titi, they say, tzitzit and so forth. It's the same breast concept. I talk about the English words a lot. For example, with the English say other, we say otar. English says alien, we say ailen. Same thing, same concept. So we're basically unveiling all this. It has been invisible for a very long time. It's been staring at our face for a very long time. So through very small baby steps, I provide and I unveil all this information for them to reconsider what they know and also question themselves. Do they know what they know, and how do they know that?
I know that in your book there is a section about ancient Egypt and such on, and the relation to Armenians. Yeah. Could you elaborate on that section?
Well, of course. I mean, first of all, the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs are much younger than the Armenian hieroglyphs in Armenia, and they are the same. They're mirror copies. So that's one. And then two, you have a lot of words in Egypt that is Armenian. For example, for a box, the Egyptians say ark, Armenians say arkh. So you already have that. You have the cross of life, they say ankh. For life, we say kyank. And when you add all that, including their relationships to Armenians, to the Hyksos and the Haikazunis and so forth, you see how it has progressed, how information has come through to Egypt from Armenian highlands 2 or 3 waves in a row. It was not only the first time. And at the same time, I talk about the Sphinx, how there's no way it could have been built by the Egyptians. I talk about how it's much older than people think it is. I provide all the evidences needed. So based on that, we're actually not changing the paradigm, but we're realigning the paradigm into that right place. It has been distorted the last 120 years.
I know that recently you've been interviewed by European radio stations, and it created a big wave over there in Europe about, again, the issue was language, the Armenian language, and how it dictates so much of the history by just studying the Armenian language. And you were referring about if some of those historians who were digging into the history of the world knew Armenian language, their results would have been different because they did not understand what was written and what was mentioned. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, of course. I was at Red Ice Creations. It was a Swedish radio. It has a lot of people coming in there and downloading the information, which was great for us and for them too. I mean, in other words, I was telling them that we are interdependent. We have influenced a lot to the European nation, and basically that invigorated their motivation for them to go back to their own roots to see, you know, how they have evolved and the culture has evolved. But you know, when it comes to the Armenian history itself, you know, you can see how it has influenced the Europeans. You can see where the Armenians, how they influenced Basque, how they influenced Ireland, for instance. At the same time, you know, we are able to share more information with them. They can share information with us. I talk about the Aryans, how you can actually decipher the word Aryan. And because the misinformation has been in place for the last 120 years, or even 200 years, it has turned truth upside down, inside out, sideways. So now we have to sift through all this garbage and trying to reveal the truth, and it's going to take a very long time. But if each person can publish something, 20 or 30 page document, instead of wasting time, we can change history much quicker.
Well, Dr. Setyan, thank you very much for this brief interview. I know our time is over right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, language as a fingerprint is about the Armenian culture and how it predates all other cultures, with some proofs in there and some articles, as Dr. Setyan expressed to you. You can obtain it within the month of July from Armenian bookstores, or by going to www.thearmenian.com. You can purchase it right now for a discounted price of $19.95, but as soon as the book is published, it will be $24.95. So to all the people who understood what we were talking about, billions of Bari Luys, because we come from billions of light years away, and to all those who didn't understood, please continue listening to this show. You'll be getting addicted to this show, because I will wish to each of one of you just one Bari Luys. Աբուշիմեգը պիտի լաս, եթե չհասկնաս, որ Ամերիկայի Միացյալ Նահանգները հայկական է։ Bari Luys։